All right. My dear fellow listeners and viewers, good evening once again and welcome to another edition of Let's Chit Chat with Narine Dat. Let's Chit Chat with Narine Dat is a unique initiative with a global impact. There are a few different ways to listen to us. You can listen to us on the radio, 102.7 CKMS FM. You can listen to us on Rogers digital cable for those of you who have the Rogers digital box on channel 946. And of course, we also live stream our Chit Chat here. So do take the opportunity to share our page. We ask you to stay with us if you like to learn a thing or two. However, if you're looking for an opportunity to vent out any sort of negativity, this is not for you. Tonight, we are joined by the beautiful Princess Anisa. How are you doing tonight, Anisa? Anisa. I'm going to get it right by the end of the show. To that one. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing okay. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. So what we're going to do, we are going to take the opportunity, of course, to kind of get to know you a little bit. Obviously, I've known you for many, many years. I've been a big fan of yours for a long time. And I think, obviously, that's one of the reasons why we've invited you on the show. I've kind of watched you grow in different ways and all of these types of things. So what we're going to do, though, because keep in mind, people, who are watching or will be watching or at some point might not know who you are, right? And that is okay, because now it is your opportunity to take a couple minutes. It's only you we have on the show here, so you're not competing with anybody here. Take a couple minutes. This is your time, and introduce yourself to us. Let us know who you are.
Oh, wow. I am one big cook-up, to be honest. Most people know me as a singer or performer in the Chutney Soca industry. Usually go by the name Princess Anisa. And I've been doing that for close to 25 years. I do have another pop band past 5 years or so. So some people know me from Latitude 28, but on top of all of, or before all of that, actually, I mean, I do a lot of little things here and there. A serial entrepreneur, have a bunch of small businesses in many different arenas, from travel to music to consulting and coaching. I'm a certified life and business coach as well. I have a 10-year-old daughter, and I'm her momager. She's into modeling and travel, blogging and writing books as well. So I kind of manage her, and it's just I basically do whatever makes me happy. try to help others as well along the journey. My latest venture was that I wrote a book, so I guess now officially author. And definitely philanthropist, humanitarian, do a lot of work in different countries regarding, helping out children, whether it's education, food, healthcare, or domestic violence. And that seems to be the theme so far for this year, or the past year, actually.
Excellent. So speaking of domestic violence, to those of you who are watching and listening, we're going to get into all of that. We'll get her to share her story with us here. But before we get into all of those bits and pieces, I mean, I've known her as a singer and a really good one. I've known her as an entertainer and a really good one, right? And so I want to kind of dig into that a little bit. So, I mean, I've known you as an entertainer, and you've done it well, during your time kind of thing, right? But you've blossomed into different things. And I think that is a beautiful thing, right? Because you get to recognize your own potential and all of these types of things, right? But let's start off with the entertainment piece and so forth, and we'll get into the domestic violence. It is not a sexy topic, I get it, but it is important and worth talking about.
Absolutely.
So how did you start? How did you get into this whole entertainment piece? Because, I mean, you've done really well, but how did it all get started, if you don't mind?
That was a fluke. I used to dance. I used to be a fairly good dancer back in the early 90s. Won a lot of competitions for my school back in Guyana. And what ended up happening, long story short, is when I was in college, I was in a car accident. And it really messed up my back, and I was waiting for it to get better. And I used to do dances for Supertones. So when they would sing, I would kind of come out for a song or two and perform a dance to, one of their live songs. And I was in the studio, and this was about, gosh, I don't know, maybe 5-6 months after the accident.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my favorite moves I couldn't do anymore, and I got really frustrated. And it was Abby who said, clearly music is in your blood. Why don't you try singing a song or two just until your back gets better? And then you'll go back to dancing. And it was Apje Sekoy and Morigari Suno that I sang over and over and over again. And 6 months later, he's like, your back's not better yet. I'm like, it's not 100%. He says, well, we're going to have to add more songs to your repertoire. And, we did that. And I enjoyed it. I loved it.
Mm-hmm.
Got into that relationship that we'll talk about later.
Yeah, for sure.
And he pulled me out of music. And so what ended up happening is when I got out of that relationship, the first thing I did was go back to the band. And within a year, like just a few months after that, is when I did Texanita, which was also a fluke. It was, just something fun we did within a couple of minutes. Mm-hmm. And then that's what really started the whole career aspect of music for me. That song took us, places we've never been before. We hadn't been before at that point. London, Holland, Spain, Suriname, Guyana. And that's when it became a career, is when I saw, how much fun it could be. And yeah, I enjoyed writing songs after that. I really enjoyed performing at that point. So it was a hobby still, but it was a hobby that I now took seriously.
For sure. So, during your time performing, right? When you perform, I can tell you what we are seeing as audience, right? When we look at you perform, right? It looks like you are in a different world, in a good world, that is, in your world, in the Anisa world, so to speak. How does it feel to perform? Because you perform with different bands and so on. How does it feel, right, to perform in big audience, right, and in mainstream audience and so on? How does it feel as an artist to perform in that kind of aspect?
Well, I absolutely love it, because I get to, the person that you see on stage, she's not fake, but she's just different from everyday Anisa. Princess Anisa is very different from just Anisa. And I like that I get to be this crazy, fun, just energetic, I get to just be whoever I want to be in that moment. And it's a lot of fun. What a lot of people don't know about me, though, is that I'm very shy.
No, you're not.
I am very shy, and before every single performance, I get very nervous. I used to have anxiety attacks before every performance for years, but once you get on stage and you kind of shake those nerves off, then it's just an amazing feeling. And I love seeing people have a good time. I love seeing people enjoy what we do. We may not be, I may not be the greatest vocalist or the greatest dancer, or, I still work on my performance and my connection every so often, but just to see people enjoy whatever it is that we're doing, that in itself is I think the best feeling. I think that's what I love the most about it.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that with us. My dear fellow listeners and viewers, for those of you who are watching and listening, particularly to those of you who are listening and we cannot see you, do know that we appreciate all of you, regardless of where you're listening, and whatnot from. There are a few different ways, obviously, to listen to us here. That's the radio, 102.7 CKMS FM. And to those of you who have the Rogers digital box, obviously, you can listen to us there as well on channel 946. So we are joined tonight by Anisa. I will get her name right, as I promised her. I've always been a fan of her, and we have invited her for a reason. We kind of do things a little bit different now, right? Not that we are pick and choosing here kind of thing, but we want to make sure that when we do a show, we do it for a real purpose, right? And so what we try to do when we recognize that there's a gap, we try our best to close that gap. So that's one unique thing about us here, Anisa, if you have not recognized that.
That's awesome.
Obviously, in anything that we do, you're smart enough to recognize all of this. In anything we do, particularly when it comes to the entertainment industry, there are lots of challenges. Trust me, listen, I'm aware of all of that. What are some of the challenges you have faced along the way, being in the entertainment industry? Only share things that you're comfortable sharing, mine.
Gosh, there's a lot. I think, you know what, it's funny because the thing that I have spoken about a lot the past month is about the challenges being a Guyanese in the industry. And the reason that came up a lot recently is because the past 2 years, I've seen a lot more Guyanese on the charts. And it's not that I have a favorite, it's just that I'm just really glad to see that the playing field is starting to level off. And I think had that been done before, had there been more Guyanese in the industry, and it's not that they weren't there, it's just that I feel like they've constantly been pushed around sometimes and kind of held back. And okay, so as an example, before Texanita came out, I was already singing for many years. Mm-hmm. No one knew who I was, which is fine. Maybe the songs weren't great, no big deal. Mm-hmm. But when Texanita came out, everyone thought that it was sung by a Trinidadian, mm-hmm. which was okay. And then that song, like I said, took us many places. And in that time, people assumed that I was from Trinidad. And a lot of people, when they found out that I was Guyanese, they dropped me.
No way.
I've had even Guyanese promoters who were so amazed at, performance. He hired me for a performance in Guyana. And we did the show, and he loved it, and he praised it, and he was just so proud that he was the one that pushed for me to go. And he says, well, I want you to come back in April because we have this other big event, and I'm going to bring your whole band that's next time. And I said thank you, and I said I really appreciate it, because not a lot of people support the Guyanese bands right now. And he's like, wait, you're Guyanese? And I said, yes. He says, oh, I thought you were from China. I was like, no. And being a Guyanese promoter, I thought this would be a good thing. I never heard from him again. And it's not just him. It was a lot of people. It just wasn't a good enough deal, I guess, if I was Guyanese. And so, when you talk about Guyanese in the industry, really, who do you think of? You think of Terry Gadraj, right? But he's been through challenges to get where he is too. And he's been doing that. I don't think I'm allowed to tell his age, but he's been doing this for donkey years. And, it's been, and it hasn't been easy, but he pushed through. And that's not something that's very easy for a lot of other people, especially a Guyanese female, So I'm really glad to see that things are leveling off. I'm really glad to see another Guyanese female on the charts again. And I hope that continues. But that was definitely one of the biggest challenges. It's just honestly just being a Guyanese in an industry that was predominantly Trinidadian.
Well, thank you for sharing that so openly here. And keep in mind, this is a safe space here, by the way. So we're not judging in any shape or form based on what you're sharing. You're sharing your experience, right? And that's what it's all about here. So thank you so much.
And I also want to clarify, it's just the experience that I've had of other people's response towards me in the industry. It's not my views of the industry. I wouldn't be here if it weren't for a lot of my Trinidadian counterparts as well. And so I don't take sides. I love to collaborate. I've had someone else made a comment about, Guyanese versus Trini and stuff, and it was just a battle that was going on too long, and hopefully that's not going to be the case moving, from here on.
All right. Well, thank you so much for that. So obviously we want to get to know you a little bit more as well too, right? As an individual kind of thing, because when people sing or do anything for that matter, those, are the only things we know of them, right?
Right.
So as you know very well that all of us, right, regardless of what level we are in life, we will go through challenges in life without any question at different times. Despite all of that though, right, we can still look back at things that we are very much grateful for in our life. What are some of the things you're grateful for in your life?
Oh, honestly, all of those experiences, those same experiences. So I am now, this is going to be the first time I'm saying this publicly. I am now 40 years old. And I've had the conversation a lot, whereas, yes, I want to see my daughter grow up and I want to meet my grandkids, but I can honestly say that if I were to go tomorrow, I have lived a very, very full, complete, satisfying life. Even with the troubles, even with the challenges, the heartaches, the obstacles, not a lot of 40-year-olds can say that, that they have lived a very full life. And I am very grateful that I have. Other than music, my other passion is travel. Okay. And I get to do that. One of the companies I run is a travel agency. And so that has enabled me to travel quite often. And I love just being immersed in new cultures. I don't do too much of the touristy things. I like to get to know people, get to know the culture. And I get to do that. And I think just being able to do that, it really changes your perspective. It gives you a completely different outlook on life, and it absolutely makes you more grateful. The challenges that I have faced throughout my years, what I do honestly, is I don't like when there's a challenge and it doesn't have a meaning. So, for example, if something bad has to happen, I have to turn it into something positive, because I don't like when there's something negative that happens to me and it just happened for no reason. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, well, everything happens for a reason. Sometimes when you don't find that reason, I have to give it a reason, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. I can read between fine lines, yeah.
Yeah. And so, for example, with, that abusive relationship that I was in, I came out, and for years, I had to work through a lot of things mentally, psychologically, emotionally. And I felt for a moment, when I say a moment, a few couple of years, I felt like I was damaged. And it was this thing that happened to me that damaged me. And so eventually I realized I don't want to give it that much power. I don't want to give it that much control over me. So whenever the challenges arise, flip it. How can I use this to make life better? How can I use this to do something good? And so with every challenge came something good because of that. And so I'm really, really grateful for that. With that example, what came out of that is I started to speak out. I wrote the book, and I've had so many comments from so many people saying how much that book has helped them. And then that's where the meaning is for me. That's what I'm grateful for that. And had it not been for the challenges, that wouldn't have happened. I'm grateful that I can help people with that. And so it's basically the same thing with all the other challenges. Finds a way to spin it, make it something positive, and it's what helps you grow. I'm definitely not the same person I was 10 years ago or 20 years ago. So I'm really grateful for the fact that my challenges allowed me to see more beauty in the world, more good in the world, and I've been able to live in a happier way now than I was before.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing that. We obviously have, clips and so forth that we are going to highlight so that people can get to know you a little bit more. But assuming, and they said that we should never assume, but let's say I was to reach out to somebody who is very close to you, a co-worker, former co-worker, somebody you've known for a long time. What is it that you think that they're going to talk about you? So let's say I'm going to reach out to them for reference, right? Let's say I want to hire you to perform on my show or whatever the case may be. What do you think they will say about you?
That I'm stubborn. I'm very stubborn. I'm very stubborn. And the other thing is that I love people. I wear my heart on my sleeve. I love people, and probably a little too much. I'm the happiest in three things. When I'm traveling, that's number two. Number three is music, when I'm performing, when I'm singing. But number one, I'm happiest when I'm able to do something for someone.
Fantastic.
Even if it's like a little thing. And I don't like it when people don't let me do something for them. So that's where the stubbornness comes. But yeah, I'm a very emotional person. But I'm okay with that because I choose to live with love instead of anything else, because that's just what makes me happy.
Fantastic. So what we're going to do, obviously, we want to be mindful and respectful of your time and so forth. So we want to get into the abuse aspect of things because it is happening. I do many things as well, but I also work as a psychotherapist. So I work with folks who are, going through, challenges in life, domestic abuse and awesome. Anxiety and a whole bunch of different things. I do it professionally. But before I do that, I want to feature this song of yours, and then I want you to reflect on it when we come back, and then we'll get right into the abuse piece. Will that work for you?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Awesome. I love it. So let's get this up and running. All right, so let me pause that there, and I'll get you to kind of reflect there. So first of all, I want you to know that I'm very proud of you as an individual. When I look at that, I can just see the emotion. I can see that you are, as you mentioned earlier, that you are a different person than the Anise that I'm talking to right now when you're performing. Very different, right? Mm-hmm. And that's a unique skill, by the way. So that's awesome. Tell me about that video. Tell me about the song. Just Let Loose, and let's hear from you.
So I was presented with that song because of my past experiences, and a lot of the words all of the words, honestly, in that song kind of hit home for me. And that was around the time where I was trying to kind of shake off this fear. So this is something that happened many years ago, and I constantly lived with this fear, constantly lived looking over my shoulder. And it would be, I moved out of that state, that he was in. And anytime I moved, he would find out where I lived. And it just became one of these things where I didn't think I could go anywhere. And then I got married. And it took years. My husband was very, very patient, very soft with me and gentle with my emotions. He was my best friend for years before that. So he knew me, and he knew who I was before that relationship. And then he saw who I became after that relationship. And he, was a huge part of me learning to love myself in order for me to come out of that, in order for me to stop living in fear. And there was something that came up, because every so often my abusive ex would kind of pop up. And there was one instance where he did, and I panicked. And my husband, kind of got a little frustrated with me. He's like, "Stop now." Like, I'm like, no, but this is what's going on. He's like, "No, I know this situation is fine." He says, "But stop being scared now. You've been scared for way too long. That's no way to live." And that really put things into perspective. I'm like, yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And so I started talking about it more, and that has definitely helped. Mm-hmm. And this video, this song came out around that time when I was really trying to kind of take control over the situation for myself. And it did, it worked. That's when people started asking questions. "Oh, well, you couldn't tell that you went through that, and I never would have known." And then it opened up the conversation multiple times with multiple people, and I can't tell you how many times the conversation led to others saying, "I've been there, and I that happened to me," and now they're coming to me for insight as to, well, how did you get through that and become who you are today, because you couldn't tell that you went through that. And that's, I think, what gave me the real urge to tell my story, because I think too many people are in that situation, and they not use it, but they feel like that's it. Like, this is just who I am now, and there is no getting over this. And that's really sad. Now that I am on the other side of it. But for 10 years or so, I wasn't. For 10 years, I was right where they were. So I know how it is, living kind of day by day, thinking that you're just already broken and this is it for your life. And I now use whatever little platform I still have to show them, hey, that's not supposed to dictate your future. That has nothing to do with who you're about to be, who you're going to be, who you want to be. And yeah, so that video was a real catalyst in me starting that whole journey through that.
So well, thank you so much for sharing that. But when you talk about the abuse piece and so forth, are you able to show, not necessarily details, based on ways you feel comfortable, right? You're doing really well so far here, by the way. Are you able to give some specific examples, kind of thing, as to what you identify as abuse, for example?
It was very gradual. It started off as, well, you shouldn't, I was in graduate school at the time. And so it was questions like, well, can you just do online classes? So then this way, you could kind of move with me here. And I didn't see anything wrong with that. And when my family would come in, or when I wanted to go to like my cousin's wedding, for example, things would come up and he would say, well, no, we have this going on. And it would be a random event. And he's like, no, you can't leave this weekend. We have this going on. So it didn't look like abuse, right? It took me a very long time to realize what he was doing was isolating me from my friends and from my family, from everything that I love. He got me to a point where I wasn't seeing anyone. Not my parents, not my siblings, my cousins, I was always very close to. So it started off slow, started off easy, something that's not too recognizable. And then it just kind of went through its different phases. When he would do something wrong initially, it was, or like when I say something wrong, I mean when he used to hit me the first couple of times. He was very apologetic. He cried actual tears. Oh my gosh, how could I do this to you? And then it again progressed. And the last set of things were punching me, to the point where I flew across the kitchen, or hanging me out of the third story window. Just tying me down, choking me. He always, every time I tried to leave, he would always pull my hair. He would chase me, kind of pull my hair back. Can't tell you how many times I blacked out because the back of my head hit the floor or the wall. And then it's a lot of gaslighting, a lot of him, when I would wake up and try to talk about it, he would act like none of that ever happened. And so I questioned my sanity a lot of times. So yeah, it was bad. I've known women who were with him afterwards, and it got a whole lot worse. So I as much as I say, yeah, I had it bad, and there are other women who definitely have it a whole lot worse than I did, but either way, it's awful.
Well, thank you so much for openly share what you've just shared there. It was not an intention thing for you to get that deep, but do know that, your strength and willingness, to share, you're definitely making an impact. I want you to know that, right? So it might not be today as we speak right now, but it might be tomorrow as people watching, listening, it would be next week, right? And so forth. So do know that every word you speak here today definitely will make a huge difference to the people who are watching, listening, and will be watching and listening. So we forever are grateful for that, for sure. But without any question, I mean, you are a strong woman. There's no denying about that. You have a really good head on your shoulder, right? There's no denying about that. And you are here talking about it, right? Only a handful of people will do what you are doing right now, and I really commend you for that here. So kudos to you for that. And do know that we have your back. I can tell you that for sure. If there are needs, you need to reach out and so forth, we are always here. So you can always use us as a lifeline, kind of thing. So that's going to be our gift to you for the fact that you came to our show here. So always know that for sure.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. And so at what point, right, you have said to yourself, hey, I have to get out of here kind of thing. Like, what was that moment like, where you said, hey, like, this is not normal, that this is getting worse kind of thing here. And I, want better for myself. I have a daughter kind of thing, so to speak. Tell us about that moment if you
Well,
can.
I didn't have my daughter then. This was a
You didn't?
relationship
Oh.
that.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah,
Yes,
this was
you're right. Yeah.
before.
Because she's
Before
only
I met.
10. Yeah, she's only 10 now. Sorry. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
And so it was quite a few things, because I just, from the first hit was a red flag, and I was like, okay, we're not going to do this. We can't. This is not okay. But around the time the second one happened, he was already stripping my self-esteem, my confidence. That was a long process, and I didn't know that was going on. They tend to know exactly what they do and when to do it. So when it started getting bad, I wanted to leave. And I've tried to leave many times, and every time I tried to leave, I ended up in the hospital, or just hurt without a hospital. Whenever I was in the hospital, he was there. So it was just, at one point, I honestly just gave up and just kind of accepted that as, this is my life. But it still got bad. I thought, well, maybe I listened to his mom when his mom told me, well, just behave and then this wouldn't happen.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I believed that. I believed that it was my fault. And so I tried that. I tried just, behaving. And that didn't work. And so it was, the whole thing of me getting out, I had to actually plan it. And I talk about that in detail in my book, why I couldn't just up and leave, and how I have to actually plan an escape, if you will. And it didn't go off as planned, but I ended up getting out of there that day, and it was really because I realized that even behaving or just being, someone that he wanted me to be, that didn't stop it, right? That doesn't help anything. It didn't stop it. And so I knew the amount of times I ended up in the hospital or blacked out, and, all these times that I was getting hurt, I knew that I was going to die in there. But that's all it was. And so it was a moment of knowing, well, if I'm going to die anyway, just keep trying to get out, because you're going to die if you stay, or you die trying to get out. Which one do you want to be? And, it's still a negative place to be. It's still not this aha moment. Oh, I deserve more. It wasn't like that. I wish it was. I wish I loved myself enough. I wish I knew that I deserved better, and I would have left sooner. I would have done things a little differently. And I also do talk about that in the book as well. I call myself out a lot in the book. I talk about all the things, all the places I went wrong, and things that I could have done differently. Because the whole point is not just to tell my story. The whole point of that book is to help other people in that situation, and my mistake, like you don't only learn from your mistakes, you could learn from my mistakes too. Learn from everybody's mistakes. I will tell you what my mistakes are. And, hopefully it's something that can resonate with someone in a way where they could use that and get out safely, but yeah, it was just that moment of, hey, well, I'm going to die anyway, so might as well try.
Well, good for you for really putting together a plan, because having a plan, to those of you who are watching, listening, having a plan in place is key, right? Obviously, you wouldn't be able to share your plan here on our show, but how is it that people can get a copy of your book so that they can get not only to, know of your story, and kind of, have a better understanding as to what you've kind of went through, so to speak, but, understanding the plan that you've kind of used for yourself that allow you to be in a better place right now, so to speak. How can people get a copy of that book?
It's on Amazon. all over Amazon Canada, US. It's called Scarred Wings Still Fly. So it's on Amazon. It's available in paperback. It's available on Kindle as well, including Audible as an audiobook. And it's a really short, quick book. It's a 2-hour read. I wanted it to be something that's short but impactful. Because if you know someone who's in that situation, they can't be walking into that house with a thick book on, abusive relationships. So I wanted it to be something that, can be read, in just a couple of hours, but I think it's packed with some good information there that can help. And so it's not only for people who are in an abusive relationship, but it also is for people who are friends and family, right? If you have a loved one who is in that situation, it explains what they're going through psychologically, emotionally. There's so many times where people would talk about other women in that situation, and it's usually, well, I don't know why she stays with that man, and that won't be me, and if a man ever touched me, then and I used to be one of those before I got into that relationship. Mm-hmm. And now I know better. And it's so the book also gives you a glimpse of what really is going on, how women end up staying in that situation, and what's needed, what you can do as a friend or as a family member to help them, right? And it's also for people who have already gotten out of abusive relationships, because that's a completely separate struggle. And it's a very real struggle. It's not all peaches and cream when you get out of that relationship. That there's a lot of work that needs to be done emotionally and psychologically afterwards. And so the book, it talks about that as well. So yeah, Amazon, you could also order a copy at anisasingh.com as well.
Fantastic. So, you were young. They said that life starts at 40. That's what they say here in North America. My wife actually turned 40 last month, and we did, as I told you, we did a celebration for her last Saturday, and we brought the family together and things of that nature. So her life just starts. So it's yours. Where do you see yourself 5 years from now?
Oh, that's a good one. I usually have I do have a 5-year plan. With the way life is for us right now, we kind of have to live day by day. But we always, every year, we do a 5-year plan, a 1-year plan, and then we do our to-do list for the year based on that. Mm-hmm. And the 5-year plan is always, for me, I would like to be at a platform where I could help more people, especially when it comes to domestic violence. I do it on a small scale right now. Mm-hmm. As a coach, I do that on a small scale. I do one-on-one, and I'm hoping to eventually be able to just kind of expand and help people on a larger scale with that, and still be able to travel and maybe have a 6-pack by then instead of a little gut. But that's about it. Just be happy and travel and help people. That's all I really, really want.
Fantastic. So how does it, you are a mother, obviously, mm-hmm. and you're a parent. How does it feel to be a parent?
That saying, when you become a parent, you that's when something about your heart is walking outside of your body. Yeah, that's it right there. It's so much fun. And it's very challenging. And I think, being a parent is what gives you the courage to do anything, because then it's not about you anymore. And, I've told people, so people could say whatever they want about me and try to attack me, and I really don't care. But when it comes to my child, that's where I don't mind fighting. I don't mind, bringing the claws out, and so it is. And then with her, she's like me and her father times 10. So she definitely keeps me on my toes. She's an incredible person. For a kid, she's super resilient. I think she's very hard on herself, and so because of that, she's taught me to not be so hard on myself. You know, and so we learn, you know, as much as she learns from you know, me, I do learn a lot from her. And she, at this age, she's my best friend. She's my buddy, and I don't think I would do anything without her. So it's a lot of fun and it's a challenge, but it keeps me in check. You know, when I end up going off on a tangent, you know, scrolling through Instagram or TikTok, and, you know, got to get back to work. You have a daughter, you know, so it's fun. It's fun. It's challenging, but it's such a great challenge.
Yeah, you're right. I have 2 girls as well too. It's challenging, but you know, when you weigh it out, you know, with all the fun that you talk about and so forth, and everything else in between, it still overweighs all the challenging pieces, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, before, when, you know, as a teenager and throughout my 20s, up until that relationship, I was a very fun-loving dork. I was just so quirky, and all my cousins used to call me crazy, and, you know, I was that person that just did all the stupid dances and, you know, just always finding stupidness to do. And then, you know, life happened, and I got pretty serious along the way. Still a little bit, you know, that quirky person is still in there. But then I became a parent, and I started running businesses, and you have to be more mature and more responsible in certain aspects. And I've allowed that to overflow into, you know, my more personal parts of my life. And so when she came in, as she grows, she's reminding me of who I am as well, you know, and she pulls out that quirky Anisa again, and that fun-loving Anisa, the Anisa that does all these stripper dances around the kitchen, and you know, she brings that out in me again, and it's just, you know, she's my rock right there. As much as I am for her, she is for me as well.
Fantastic. So how would you like to be remembered? I know that your life just started here, but obviously all of us will have to leave one by one somehow at some point. How is it that you would like to be remembered?
Just as a person who helped whenever somebody needed help, I was there. That's it. That's the way I choose to raise Amaya is, you know, reach for the stars, do whatever you want to do, whatever it is that is in your heart to do, make sure you do it, but help as many people as you can along the way. Because I've had that help, you know, my life could have gone so many other ways if I didn't have the help from certain people that I did. And so I know the impact that one person helping you could have on your life. And it's just, there are things that I would never forget. You know, I remember there was this one time in college, and I had 3 roommates in a 2-bedroom. And, you know, things were tough. Both my parents had gotten laid off. And it was really tough to pay bills enough, you know, work enough to pay bills when you still have to pay for, you know, your rent and your college tuition and things like that. So my portion of the light bill, I was really behind on. And I remember calling the electric company and asking for a little bit more time to pay it. And I explained the situation, and she says, okay. She goes, well, you know, this is what we'll do. And then she allowed me to make a plan to pay. And this was Thanksgiving. This was the day before Thanksgiving. And Thanksgiving Day, that representative that I was speaking to at the electric company, she sent me Thanksgiving dinner. And this is when all I was eating was ramen noodles for lunch and cornflakes with condensed milk, because regular milk was too expensive. and I had a full Thanksgiving meal and I cried, and I would never forget that. And I would never forget her. And I don't know her name, and I've never been able to say thank you, but that has gone with me throughout my entire life. And so if we can help people, even in the smallest way,
Yeah.
then for me, I think that's the best way to go through life. And so that's the only way. I mean, regardless of what music I do or what book I wrote, or, I mean, well, if the book can help, then yeah, but the only way I really want to be remembered is that, well, this girl, she helped me when this, or she was there for me during this, or she gave me this opportunity, or she just had this conversation with me that helped me, whatever it is. That's the only thing I want to be remembered for.
Thank you so much. I'm glad you're taking the time to show gratitude, because that is such an important thing. It is very rare that people acknowledge people when they do good for them. So I'm glad that you're taking the privilege to do so. It's amazing. It speaks highly of you as a person. That's awesome.
Thank you.
I wouldn't be able to see my radio people. That's where we have most of our listeners. But I want to just give a special hello to John from Queens. And he's asking you, if you're not able to see it.
Hi, John.
Yeah, he's asking, if you're seeing it on your end there, did you ever see the video where I put together Catch Me Lover with Tech Sunita in the same video? He's asking a question.
I think so. Yes, I did see that. Okay. Thank you so much. Yeah, no, John from Queens, he is such a supporter. Just not only for us, man. I mean, he's such a great person. He supports all the musicians and artists out there, especially in our Chutney industry, and so unbiased, and you don't find a lot of guys like him. And it's not, and when you talk about John, it has to be John from Queens. You say John, nobody knows who you're talking about.
John from Queens. That's right, John from Queens. The name is very well branded, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
And very cool man.
Yes.
So he done a lot of things as well for a lot of people, as you mentioned, for us, which we appreciate as well. We had him on the show as well too, but very unique.
Awesome.
Kind of thing, which is awesome. I want to be respectful of you. I mean, we can keep going on and on and on and on, but I want you to know that, we have to be respectful of people's time. Time is money, as they say.
Yeah.
Right, kind of thing. And I mean, I'm sure you have busy life just like anybody else and everybody else. When we do things like this, I mean, I'm basically putting aside very important things, but the reason for this is because these things are very important to me, right? And that's one of the reasons we make the time for it, for sure. I want you to know that I value you. I value your presence. I appreciate you, really taking the time and, to come here. Do know that's something we will always remember here. And you definitely, you're making an impact without any question. You are a good presenter, by the way. You've done really, really well. On our show here, I try in therapy session, we always try to give the client 80% of speaking time, and I think I've done well to give you that 80% speaking time. I talk a lot too, so I give myself credit for that, to make sure, because it is very difficult to do. Right, because sometimes talk show hosts want to talk a lot, but the idea is to make sure you're giving the guest the opportunity. So I hope that I've given you the opportunity to kind of speak. Yes. I think you've utilized it really, really well.
Thank you.
What other stuff you would like to say? Anything you would like to say. I want you to know that this is your time. I'm now giving you the opportunity to say anything you would like to say before we wrap it up. I know it seems like we have started 5 minutes ago, but the hour goes by fast when you're having fun. I can tell you that much for sure. But we will have you back again. We are working on some special things. Just before, while you're thinking what else you want to say, let me say to the people that when the pandemic started, we weren't sure what's happening, right? We just saw that people were just dying, right? And so we didn't know. But because of that pandemic, we came up with some amazing ideas, and we are at a point where we are in really good shape in doing lots of really, really great things. So I like when you keep saying helping people and so on, because it fits perfectly with my values. So to those of you who are watching and listening, this year here we will be doing lots of that, because we are at a point where we can do that kind of thing. So I just, because I know people are probably thinking, he did mention in the past, the things happening, but we're not seeing anything going on. But not everything needs to be shared on social media every single time. But I just thought we give you a little idea that we are in really, really good shape. And I'm so excited to kind of really, put it forward there. And it will be just creating opportunity for people, more opportunities and type of opportunity. That I can tell you for sure. This is thank you for giving me this time. So you now have the opportunity to say anything else you want to say, but do know I'm forever grateful for your time here.
Oh, no, thank you. Don't ever give me the mic. I could talk forever.
No, you go ahead. You go ahead.
No, I mean, just, the only thing I do want to address, one thing, a lot of people have been seeing little clips and things like that on social media, and got quite a few people asking me if I, am coming back to the chutney industry. And I wouldn't say I'm coming back to the industry as much as it's more so at this point, we're no longer under management. And so I can sing whatever I want now and at whenever point. So, I could do some pop and I could do some chutney. And I think this is the year that I might release a couple chutney songs or so. But to say I'm actually coming back, I just, with my career right now, it's, there's a lot going on, but I do miss the chutney industry. And, you can absolutely expect to hear something coming up really soon. I have quite a few projects, on the music side coming up soon. So I do hope that you guys haven't given up on me yet with that. And please, just kind of follow so you hear what those are as soon as they're announced. But other than that, again, if you know anyone that's in that situation, going through an abusive relationship, please do check out the book and, send it to someone, whoever may need it. I've had men read that book and tell me that they took some really valuable things away from that. So please give that book a real shot. I promise you won't regret it. And other than that, just, I want to say to you, Narine, thank you so much for having me on your program. I really, really appreciate it, especially the opportunity to talk about both the music and the domestic violence. I think domestic violence is definitely something that needs to be spoken of more in our culture. And I see it happening, but I also see it helping more. So the more we do it, the more we can help. The more we can, women out there can actually be not only safe, but happy. It's not just about surviving. It's about living a happy life afterwards. And so I really, really appreciate you having me on your show so we could discuss all of that.
So we'll have you back again, especially when we have things up and running, as I mentioned earlier. So we keep track of things, and we have database. We keep track of our guests and all of that, because there's so much we would like to do. It's a matter of time. You mentioned something about the chutney music thing, right? But sometimes in life, I like what you're saying, because in life, sometimes we just have to step away a little bit, right? We have to step away because we cannot do it all. Trust me, take my word for it. I do not have enough time in the day to do the things that I want to do. There's no question about that. There's not in there. So, right, sometimes we have to prioritize things, right?
Exactly.
So stepping back a little bit, recharge sometimes, and kind of really getting back at it when you're ready. I think it's a good call, right? That's the bottom line. So the fact that you're kind of still thinking of that, hey, your life is kind of taking a different direction, not necessarily in a bad way. You're exploring more. You're kind of really recognizing some more of your potential within you, and you've kind of, trying different things, which is awesome. But you're also saying, hey, I've had a good time doing this, and I may want to give it a shot again when the time is right. And when the time is right, we will love if you can reach out to us and have a chat. We'll talk more about that off camera, but we would love to kind of be part of that, and not wanting anything from you. That's not what we do. Not on our team. We are not looking back for anything. We are in a good place. And I like what you've been saying consistently, helping. It's a beautiful thing. It looks like you are a person that likes to give then receive. And I think that's a special thing. So that's awesome. Good stuff.
Thank you so much. I
All
really
right.
appreciate it.
Yeah. So you stay right there. Don't go anywhere. All right. Don't leave at all. Just stay there. You only leave when I give you the okay to leave. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So my dear fellow listeners and viewers, as we are approaching the end of tonight's program, we would like to take this opportunity to thank you for listening to us, right? On behalf of myself and our guest here tonight, Princess Anisa, both of us would like to join together and wish you a great today and even better tomorrow. We'll talk to you soon. You stay right there for now.